character comes from a place of really trying to understand his past and who he is as a person today. And I think Nadia is who she is today and what she's going to be in the future. And they kind of are star-crossed. They kind of are drawn to each other no matter what happens. And there's, outside of all the flashy action and the, big stunts and the explosion and all that cool stuff, the show has so much heart because their characters can't stop but be drawn to each other. Our characters, their characters, our characters. And I think that just makes for like good TV, like you invested in both Nadia and Mason. At least that's what I felt when I watched the show.
So, we know this from the trailer, of course, that there is, these characters, they lose their memory and they're actually going to be different people now with different personalities, I'm assuming. At the same time, there's flashbacks, and then you just said who they might be in the future. I mean, I'm sitting here, a complete non-actor, completely my question. How does one ever prepare for a role where you have the past, the present, that you don't remember the past at all, and the future that might be? I'm intrigued.
It's like one of those scenes you see in a police drama where they have pins and chalk and strips.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That was our trailers and dressing rooms, was trying to work out how do we tie these stories together? How do we make it as clear as possible so the audience can understand it? But behind the scenes we are keeping each other in check, comparing notes, what character are you now, what do we know, what do you know? So it's a complicated process, but in the end it makes it very clear on screen, but there's a lot of very confusing ways.
Okay, 2 personalities over these 6 episodes. At any point did you go like, where are we now?
Every day.
Oh really?
Every day. We had to come in every day and kind of not just check, like Richard said, check in with each other because our characters knew, we knew our characters really well. So we would say, do you have this information yet? Did Nadia tell Mason this? Does Kyle know that? And then we had to really confer with the directors and filmmakers to be like, wait, we don't want to pull on a thread that we can't, eventually answer. But this show is like a duck. It looks beautiful, it's swimming beautifully, but underneath it's like,
lovely.
That's how the show is. You look at it and you're like, wow, it looks great. You don't know what all it took.
Maybe we should say swan instead of
Swan. Hey, we're gonna backstop that, right? And we're gonna say swan.
Exactly.
The action, I've never seen anything like it. So the action is what they'll give us. But you are doing the action, guys. You're actually doing this. How physically demanding is something like this?
It's incredibly physically demanding because it's not just doing it once, you're doing it for 3 days straight. But I think that's what really drew me to this was within these action sequences that are physically demanding, we try and integrate as much of the character moments as we can. It's not simply a gun show or a fight sequence. This is how these 2 characters interact physically, how they dance together, and we learn in each action sequence a little more about the 2 of them. Just like in the drama scenes, the stakes are so high because of the adrenaline of what's going on. You're kind of constantly in this kind of exciting place, and that works both in the drama and action sequences.
Totally. It's physically demanding, it's emotionally demanding. We shot it over a year and a half. We shot it during 2021, which was COVID time. We invested a lot of ourselves in the show, and that's why we're so excited to share it with the world, because I think I left a part of my spirit in it. Really a part of my soul is in Citadel.
There is this epic action sequence or sequences, but at the same time, as an Indian viewer, the one thing that I felt left out of me was the heart and the drama. So how does the story balance out those elements?
I think that was intentional. It was extremely intentional, and that's what makes the show stand out, is that it's not just flashy, it doesn't just have amazing action, it's like big sequences and explosions, but you actually invest in the characters that you're watching, because that's the main story, because what's happening between them, everything else is a byproduct of the story.
Richard, would you like to answer that?
I completely agree, and everything else is an opportunity for us to connect to the story. So it was quite easy in a way to pull all the aspects of the characters into all these duality.
We have a whole question. Whole question.
was so exciting to be able to see and to be able to see and execute a scene that was created like that. Because it's not boring, you know, you're not just seeing like, okay, we've seen this amazing stunts before, you actually have interest and soul and you're invested, you know, and you're like, what is happening? And I think that just gives the show so much of an edge over all the other action-inspired world.
Absolutely. Now, one of the most impressive sequences was that train sequence. So I'm going to get into this trailer now a little bit. Richard, take us through the process of preparing and filming for that.
That's kind of terrifying because this whole sequence happens in a restroom and obviously then into the train. That restroom is a tiny space, so I was terrified by it because I thought, how am I going to pull this off? How do you look cool? How do you do it properly? And then that just fed into working with the character we're doing. That's what we did. How would he use every bit of the space? How do you use the sink in a fight? How do you use the handrail? So it gave us all these opportunities to make the fight part of the storytelling. Let's get to know who this man is because of what decisions he makes in that space. So that was exciting. And then we move into our part together, which is, okay, let's see how these two people dance together. They've only just reconnected after who knows how long, and they're straight into this dancing.
I'm not even waiting for the 20th of April now, guys. I want to see this show like right now. But, okay, we'll have to wait and behave ourselves. There's a scene, okay, a shot where you dodge a knife. And I looked at her, I was like, oh, okay. So, what does it take to actually do an action sequence choreography? What did you learn?
Well, I have to really trust Richard that he won't stab my face. When he threw that knife, you imagine you standing and you have four actors throwing a knife, and you're not joking, that CGI knife, you throw one.
Suddenly it's a magic show.
But that's what I learned. Smoke and mirrors, movie magic, guys, that you can make anything happen, and movie magic is a real thing, and that looks extremely authentic, but it was just Richard doing that.
Nice. You know, the Indian installment of CITADEL, we spoke about it before you guys came on stage, stars two of your friends, okay, that's Bharat and Samantha Gupta. What advice would you give to your two fellow Indian spies who are part of the CITADEL universe and in fact are shooting the series as we speak?
I don't think I can give them any advice. They're both such accomplished actors in their own ways. There's nothing I can say. I met Varun recently at the NMACC event, and he was telling me how the show is going and how exciting it is, and there are some really cool threads that connect the other installments to our installments, so we were talking about those, and you'll find out when you start watching the show how we're all connected to each other. But it's really fun, and I can't wait to see that, because I think DK and Raj, the filmmakers, are so amazing, they're so talented, and that they're going to bring their own spin to the Indian installment. It's very exciting.
Priyanka said she had no advice, but Mason came. Do you have any advice for spies shooting currently?
Absolutely not. The business actors, there's such a wonderful amount of talent in the Indian version of our show, and each one is going to be different to the country it's in. So I think that's what's going to be beautiful, is everyone finding their own version of it. I mean, we're still working ours out as we go, so I just hope they're having lots of fun doing it.
Absolutely. Of course, we've spoken a lot about CITADEL, but we're going to ask you guys questions about each other, if you're ready. Oh, come on, this is fun. This is the first time you guys have worked together. There's got to be lots there. So, what was the one thing that you guys loved about working with each other? Richard, men first, please.
I love working with Priyanka every day because she keeps me present. We're both hugely like to prepare properly before we engage in something that I can overthink things and get in my head about it, and Priyanka was always great at bringing me right back into the room and being so present and allowing us to really play together. And I think that's kind of, in many ways, like the characters of the show, we balance each other out beautifully and bring out the best in each other. Couldn't ask for a better dancing partner.
Ah, that's lovely. Yes, I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you for that. Thank you.
I'll tell you what I love about it. It's exactly the same thing, but the opposite. So there are things that I miss.
Yin and yang. Love it.
So because our script is extremely, it's many layers and there's a lot going on, I'll come on the set and take a certain approach, and Richard will just tell me in my ear, you already know this information. And then I take a second approach.
click that again.
So we protect each other and we have each other's backs, and that's really wonderful to know that, you know, we're not trying to trip each other up. We're not trying to like point something bad out. We're truly there to support each other because we know this show is about the two of us together, and the better we dance together, the better the show will look. And we've always protected each other.
Beautiful teamwork, making the dream work, absolutely. You know, honestly, because I'm seeing you for so long, I would totally be selfish and sit and chat with you forever. But I have to be kind and generous to all our friends here. So I'm going to